Fingerprint on question document. A document in question document examination is any material that contains marks, sign, or symbol intended to communicate a message. When a fingerprint is placed on a document after creation to sign it, that symbol, that fingerprint is communicating approval, is communicating the intention of the owner of the document. Examination of a fingerprint that is placed on a document to communicate intention or approval of the owner of that document, of the creator of that document, is still within the scope of a question document examiner. So what is a fingerprint? A fingerprint is a unique pattern of ridges and valleys on the surface of a person's fingers. These ridges are formed during fetal development and remain unchanged throughout life. A method of studying fingerprint for the purpose of identification is known as dactyloscopy or radiology. Fingerprint on a question document can be used to identify the creator of that document, and can also be used as a means of authenticating the document. So the source of origin and authentication of a question document can be done by examining the fingerprint on it. What makes a fingerprint an infallible means of identification? Number one is it is present in all humans. Every human being possesses fingerprints, except in rare cases of Beard syndrome, and that is not common. Forensic morphology refers to the study of the patterns and shapes of prints or fingerprints. Fingerprint morphology is used in various applications. For example, it is used for access control, in granting or denying access to secure areas, or in border control to verify the identity of travelers. Also in forensic science, it is used for identifying suspects and victims in criminal investigation. Also civil investigation, as in verifying the creator of a document or authenticate a document, it can be used. Types of fingerprint. We have three types of fingerprint. We have plastic fingerprint, patent fingerprint, and latent fingerprint. Plastic fingerprint is that impression, that 3D impression that is left on surfaces like a surface of wax, soap, solid paint, and so on and so forth. Another type is patent. Patent is visible, is a visible print that is left after human being might have touched a surface. Patent fingerprint is made when the finger had already touched liquid like blood, like liquid paint, like ink, and so on and so forth, before touching another surface. Most importantly, to a question document examination, when a finger touches ink and then is placed on a document as a sign of approval or as a sign of communicating intention of the creator of the document. So that is patent, and that is the one that concerns us most. But before I move further, there's another one called latent fingerprint. This one is not immediately visible to the naked eye because it is deposited by the oil and water on fingers. So the criminal unintentionally, unknowingly, will lift it on surfaces at the crime scene. We made this thing with this latent fingerprint visible by using some methods like using powdering method, or by using chemicals or special lights that we made them visible before we leave them, or we leave them by snapping them, or using some other means to leave them from the surface. So what concerns us most as question document examiner is the patent fingerprint, the visible fingerprint that is on a question document. So as a question document examiner, if there's a questioned fingerprint, or there's a fingerprint on a question document that you have to examine, that fingerprint is still within your scope. So it's something that you need to work upon to authenticate this document, or to confirm or refute the purported origin of the document. Classes of fingerprint patterns. Generally speaking, there are 3 classes of fingerprint patterns. If you look at the screen, you see we have a arch, we have loop, we have wall. We have arch, we have loop, we have wall. And that arch can be further classified into 2. Plain arch, tented arch, as in tented arch. Then loop can be further classified into 2. We have radial loop and ulnar loop. Sometimes some people call it a left loop or right loop. And where we derive the radial or ulnar is from the bone of each hand. On each hand you have on the arm of each hand you have 2 bones. You have a radial bone and ulnar bone. So if the loop is facing the side of loop of the radial bone, then you call it a radial loop. If it's facing the side of the ulnar, then you call it ulnar loop. Then later I'll be explaining what loop means. Then the last one is whorl. Whorl, as in WHORL, whorl. And whorl can be further classified into 4: plain whorl, central pocketed loop, double loop, and incidental loop. And yes, you might have a loop. You may be thinking within yourself, is that not a mistake? How can loop come under whorl? Yes, it's not a mistake. By the time you go further, you understand the reason why such kind of a double loop and central pocketed loop is classified under whorl. So we have 3 classes, as I said. The first one is arch, further classified into 2: plain arch and tented arch. Then loop into radial loop and ulnar loop. While whorl is further divided or classified into plain whorl, central pocketed loop, double loop, and incidental loop. If you look at your screen, I want to encourage you or challenge you to know all the pattern that you have on your fingerprint. You know, the one you are looking at, this fingerprint, is a short picture of a human print. So you may not see like this, exactly like this, if you put ink. If you touch ink and place it on a white paper, you may not have it exactly like this one, but you have all the patterns. So I want to encourage you, go ahead, have a ink, maybe blue, black, red, or any color, but the best color is black over white. Any ink that you are going to use must be in high contrast with the background. So you are using paper as the background. If it is white paper, then use black ink. That's the best. Black ink is the best on white paper. though if other color is available, use it. Then if you have on black surface also, use your put just touch powder. If you have powder at home, touch it and just touch any black surface. Do make sure that the powder or the ink is not too much. Just make it light and place it on the paper. You see, you'll be amazed that you have fingerprint. You have some print that you have never even discovered that you have. So I want to encourage, do the same thing. Now let's move ahead. What you have on the screen, if you look at the print, actually this is how the print will be. If those fingers should touch ink, and maybe different ink like this, like yellow, blue or red, and now you place it on paper, on the white paper, this is exactly what we are going to have. So let's move further. Now I said we have arch, we have loop, and we have wall. Now just look at the screen. Let's move on together. Look at the screen. The arch is the print that has all the lines moving in from the innermost lines, moving from one side of the finger to the other side of the finger, while lifting a little bit at the center. So it's like wave. It's moving like wave. Look at the screen. From the right hand side or from the left hand side, the lines moves and never return to the same side. So from one side to the other side, and on getting to the middle, it rises a bit, just a bit, like a wave of maybe a wave of ocean, just like a wave. It just move a bit like that. That is what we call plain arch. Plain arch. Then we have tinted arch, and that one is move the same way from one side. Either you take the lines from the right or from the left. Move from one side and move and getting to the center. It has an up thrust like a tent, and that is why we derive the word tinted, like a tent. So there's a sharp up thrust at the middle, which makes it to rise up more than the plain arch. So all the lines in arch, all the lines were moving in from one side to another side without moving back, without recovering back. That is for arch. And what differentiates a plain arch and tinted arch is the up thrust. The up thrust you have in tinted arch, which is not present in plain arch. So your fingerprint, may see any of your fingerprint that is a plain arch or tinted arch, you should be able to identify it. Let's move further. Then another one is a loop, and we said that radial loop can be further classified into two: radial loop and ulnar loop. Now look at this. Look at your screen. You see that the innermost recurve. You see all this line. There are some of them that if they move from this side, from a side, they enter from a side, and on getting to a particular point, they recurve back. That is, they turn back to the same side. They move this one, for example, this radial loop, moving from the right side and also go out from the right side. That is radial loop. And the ulnar loop, look at it. From all of them moving from this side, and on getting to a certain place, they recurve back. And mind you, I said the innermost recurve. These are the one we call innermost recurve. You will not mind this one, the other one that didn't join them, the upper one. Look, this is this line here, this ridge here is known as the core. That is the core. This is the core. So the core is the center. The core is assumed to be the center of the whole lines. So all the curves around this core, all the lines around this core is known as innermost, the innermost recurve. These are innermost recurves. So if the innermost recurve enter from one side and leaves from the other, from the same side, that is loop. The same thing happened to this one, except that one is facing right hand side, while the other one is facing left hand side, while the other one is facing right hand side. And if you notice something in loop, every loop will have a data. Look at data here. I want you to take note of that one. These are some of the things we'll be using in identification later. A loop will have a data. And what is a data? A data is that is a ridge that forms something like triangle or Y junction. Like, look at it. Look at this side. It's like as if water is flowing this side, and also flowing this side, and you have a land here. It's just like that. As if you have ever seen the picture of a data, this is just what it look like. So we call this one data, just like your normal data. Then you have another class. We call it war. This has lines, the innermost lines, making a round, making a circle. The innermost lines move and form a circle, form something like circle around a point, form circles around a point. So look at it. The lines just form the innermost circles, the innermost lines form something like a circle. So, but we have, just as I said, that the wall can be subdivided into four. You have plain wall. In plain wall, you have the innermost recurve that forms something like a circle or ring of circle. So, and then we have datas. We have datas. In fact, in plain wall, we have two datas. You have two datas. Then we have another one that we call central pocketed loop. Central pocketed loop. Because the reason why this one is qualified to be called a wall is because it contains a data and these lines that form circle here. But now, if you look at it very well, you can see that from a side, the lines were coming this direction, and on getting to this place, they move out of the same direction, forming a loop. But because it has this data, and this circle, that one form central pocketed loop. Central pocketed loop is just like a loop, but it has a data. It has only one data. Then we have a double loop. If you look at this double loop, you can see that you have on this side you have something like a loop. You have a loop here. That is the lines, the innermost recurve lines moving from one side, and on getting to a place, they recurve back. The same thing with this one. So you have double loop here. Double loop on a fingerprint, on just a print. You have double loop and a data also. Then here, the last one, accidental war. Accidental war. In this accidental war, you cannot actually classify it under any one that I have mentioned before. So we call it accidental war because you can't call it loop, you can't call it arch. So it does not belong to any of the former group. So we call it a accidental war. Accidental war. So now let's move further. We still come back to some of the things that we have mentioned here, but just to let you know that there are classes, and those classes are not the same. They are one of those things you can use to differentiate every individual. Yes, before we move further, before we begin to understand the classes very well and interpret the ways we interpret it, there's something we're supposed to understand, and that is what we call minutiae. Minutiae or Garton details. Minutiae is the terminology, but Garton, we call it Garton details because there's a man called Garton. He's a pioneer. He's a pioneer in this field. So he's a pioneer in this field, and to honor him, this minutiae is named after him. Garton details or minutiae. Minutiae or Garton details points. There are those points on the fingerprint that actually differentiate every pattern. Is in forensic science, you know, we said we have two type of characteristics. Class characteristics that can link to a group of or group of item, or an individual characteristics that can be used to identify an individual. They can be used for individualization. And when you see classes is what you can falls under class characteristics, because in a group or in a community, you can have more than 3, 4, 5 people that you have war. You can have several people that you have a loop. In fact, in a family, you can have many people that you have war, or that you have the same fingerprint pattern. Classes. For example, even on your fingerprint alone, you may have different patterns there. May have different patterns, but on each those patterns will belong to a class. For example, you may have war, you may have 2 wars on your left hand side, and maybe the rest are loop, while on the right hand side you may have war, loop, and so many other ones. Now, each one of these, if you have 2 of them that are loop, if you examine those 2 that have loop, they have different minutiae. The different minutiae will differentiate them. So it is the minutiae that is actually what we use at the second level to differentiate two individuals. Okay, let me say this. We have 3 levels of details. 3 levels of details. The first one is the pattern type, whether the fingerprint belong to loop, ash, or war, or belong to any of the subgroup. Then the second level of detail is minutiae. If you look at the screen, you see points. I will still talk about that one. Then another third level is microscopic details, like the pulse. If you look at the screen, you can see some things that some points, some dots, white dots on the lines. Those white dots are pulse. These are the points where oil and water comes out of your sweat, come out of your palm or your fingers. So those points, those microscopic points, they pause, they are the example of third level. Then you have the ridge edges. The ridge edges are always unique in every individual. The edges of the ridge, they are always unique. And lastly, you may have something like scar. Look at this one now. If you look at this one, you can see some scar. This white, something that look like white line across the edge, across the ridges, white line across the ridges is a scar. It's a scar. And you have some of them, one way or the other, they are scars. So, or at times you may have warts. Somebody may have wart on his fingerprint. So, if on his fingers, such a person, if you go to make a fingerprint or a print, the print is going to show the wart. First level, I said, is the pattern type. Second level is the minutiae. And the third one is a microscopic details. Now, look at the screen. I said minutiae are those points, those features, the features on the print, the features on the fingerprint that you can use to differentiate an individual from the rest. And those features are many. Now, let's take them one by one. Look at this one we call crossover, where you see two lines or two ridges moving parallel to one another and are getting to a stage they appear to cross over one another, as if you have a flyover bridge. That is what we call crossover. Then we have what we call core. The core is the head of the line, the innermost ridge. Where you have the innermost ridge, that is where you have the core. Where you have the innermost ridge, the point where you have the innermost ridge is your core, and that core is assumed to be the center of the other lines. Now we have what we call bifurcation from the word by division to bifurcate. To forcate is like when you have a fork, something that branches into two. So by, that is two, and fork, that is two. When something divided into two or branches into two, one line branches into two here. So this is bifurcation. The lines moving from here bifurcated into two here. So that is bifurcation. At times you may have trifurcation. Trifurcation is when a single line that is coming branches to three. That is trifurcation. This one is bifurcation. Then you have a ridge ending. Ridge ending is where a ridge ends. Look at this one, ridge ending here. This is where this ridge here ends. Then you have a island. An island is a ridge, small ridge that cuts off from other ridges, from other lines. So it's just staying alone, as if it's an island. That's a highland. Then we have a delta. A delta is that point where two lines that appear that were moving, two innermost lines that were moving close to one another before, now branch. Look at this line branch here. These two lines, these are the two lines here. They move down and branch, one branch to this side, another one branch to the other side. So that is a delta. That is delta. So this point is delta. It's known as delta. Then you have pore. The pore, they are very, you have to, before you can see delta, pore, you have to use magnifying lens or microscope on the fingerprint. You cannot see it with ordinary eyes like that, with unaided eyes. So that is that. So you have them. Then you have short ridge. You have short ridge. Short ridge is when you have a ridge that is not long like others, but it's not an highland. Island is like a dot. So we have scar. Look at it. We have scar here. The scar, all this this white line, with this whitish line across several ridges. They are scar on the finger of the owner. So also we have a ridge crossing. Yes, we have talked about that one. Then you have double bifurcation. Double bifurcation is when you have a line bifurcated, then the one that bifurcated also bifurcated further. That is a double bifurcation. Look at it here. Double bifurcation. So all these are points. We call them Gatton details. They are those details or Gatton points or Gatton details where you can mark. When you mark it, you take note of the places, you mark them. Then also you mark that of mark that of disputed fingerprint and that of the sample, the sampler. The sampler, what you mean by a sampler is that the original, the known print that we call original is known as a sampler. So it's the one that we want to use. It's the one we call standard, that we want to use to compare the one that you don't know, that you are not sure, that is disputed. So when you mark the two and you compare them together, you can know whether these are from the same person or from different individual. Let's move further. Now, a fingerprint identification process, there are some steps that you need to take note. There are some steps that you have to take note. The first one, we have about 4 steps. The first one is acquisition, capturing a clear and high quality image of the fingerprint. Now, we as question document examiner, what concerns us is the fingerprint on the document. So let's leave other one now. The questioned fingerprint on question document is what is our concern. So now what do? We scan it. You can scan that document into the system. If it is clear enough, in fact, you have to use high resolution scanner to scan it in, so that all the detail will still be intact. Now, when you scan it in like that, you can begin to use your system to mark the Gatton points or the Gatton details. So the point will be marked in the tool and before you compare. Now, there are cases where the fingerprint is not clear enough. You can use your system. You can just use a simple software like Photoshop to increase the clarity, to make it more clear, to improve the clarity and contrast. This is not for you to manipulate the image, to adjust it, or to do anything that will change the natural structure. What you are doing is just to make it clearer, so that you can read what you're supposed to read there. So that is what you do. But there are some cases also where you may not need your system. You may not need your system. You may just do whatever examination you want to do on the paper, direct on the paper. So in that kind of situation, you need some equipment that we'll be talking about later. Now, after enhancing the image, if it is not well clear, after enhancing the image to improve clarity and contrast, the next thing for you to do is to extract the feature. So feature extraction. Feature extraction is the next thing. That is, you want to identify and extract distinctive features. That is the minute, and probably we have some things that we mentioned at the third level, like the scar, like the ridge edge, and so on and so forth. So well, after you might have identified them, you have to mark them. We still demonstrate that one, but that will be in the next class. So you mark them. As you mark them, you look at it. If they have the same mark, how many points do you have that are the same at the same location? How many bifurcations are the same location? You can use your system to do the matching, and you can do it manually. What are those to use for fingerprint analysis? Fingerprint analysis. You need your magnifying device, like you need loop, then you need hand lens with a stand. Hand lens with a stand is far better than the one that doesn't have a stand. That is if you are examining fingerprint. Also, we need a ridge counter. Ridge counter is a pointed device that can help you to point to some to those features. It's just to or you want to count some ridges. So if you are using your finger, your finger will cover some things from your eyes, so you will be able to see. But the sharp object, the sharp object that you want to use, just like a pen, will enable you to count it one after the other. Ridge counting. We will come to ridge counting in the next class. Then you need a system. Your system can be used to do most of the things you want to do after you might have scanned it into the system. And your system, advantage of your system is that whatever work you do will still be there. So, and if you want to print those things, the analysis out, which is even good for you to print out, you print the analysis where you have marked it. Those things that you have marked, you print them out. You print you print that out. Then your report also will be printed out. Now, your report, the analysis that you have done using the system will be printed and attached to it, so that when such a report reaches court, the judge may not even need you at all to come and explain what you have done, because already as he's looking at it, he already understand what you have done there, because your analysis will explain everything. Then also you have you may use, just as I mentioned, there may be automated fingerprint identification system that is called AFIS. That AFIS makes job faster. But in our own case, as a question document examiner, you don't need such a thing, because what you need is you have two documents. One is known document, it's a exemplar, the original, the genuine one, and the other one that is disputed. Both of them are in your hand. You want to compare the two together. You don't need a fee for such kind of work. Print analysis. Print analysis. When you have two prints, there's one we call unknown sample. The unknown sample is the disputed sample. Maybe on the document. For example, let's assume it's a will. On the will, some of them are saying this is not fingerprint of their dad, or they are saying that the document is forged, and the other party is saying that no, this is the true copy, or this is the document that our daddy made. And we have another one called exemplar. Exemplar is the requested one, the requested document that has the fingerprint, the no fingerprint of the man. For example, the fingerprint that is on bank note or bank letter. Maybe he has written a letter to banks, and you may just pick two of them. If you're able to confirm the two of them to be the same, then use either of them can be used. So just make sure what you are using is genuine to compare with the disputed one. So you both of them may be scanned into the system like this. Then you begin to mark them one after the other. Mark the points, the bifurcation, the ridge ending, the core, and and so on and so forth. In the known sample, you do that one, then you also do that one for the unknown sample. Then later you do the comparison. Because of our time, I'm going to stop here today. We'll continue in the next class. Thank you. See you in the next class. God bless you.